Disposable razors versus electric shavers. That's what we'll be talking about in this video. These are the two most popular options. If you're looking to get a clean shaven look, you're most likely using one of these two things. Now in particular, on YouTube recently, I've been seeing so many influencers absolutely pushing different types of disposable razors on their audience. And in such videos that are normally sponsored, these people are really putting across that these different brands of disposable razors are the only option, the only good option anyway, to get a decent shave. And that if you use anything else, it's gonna leave you looking bad. And in my opinion, some of this really biased information that's going around is just a bit sketchy. And I think it's influenced by the fact that more razor companies are likely to sponsor videos than electric shaver companies. So therefore, in this video, I wanted to do a more unbiased, direct comparison of wet shaving with a disposable razor and dry shaving with an electric shaver. So you can decide for yourself which one of these options is going to be better for you. Because from the way that the disposable razors have been pushed on people like it's the only good option, I don't know, I think by the end of this, it may be a bit more even. I'm going to break this down into a couple of different sections. First, we'll focus on the disposable razor, the pros and the cons of this one, and then the same again for the electric shaver. One of the biggest benefits that is heavily promoted about razors is that it gives you a closer shave. As you slice the hairs, because it's so close to the skin, you're left with a softer feeling face when compared to an electric shaver. And some of this soft feeling comes from the fact that the razors often take off the top layer of dead skin as well, sort of acting a bit like an exfoliant. And as well as the feeling on your face being a bit different to an electric shaver, I suppose that if it is technically a fraction, millimeters closer to the skin, you're probably not going to have to shave quite as often. Well, I mean, you can shave every day if you want, but you don't have to. And also, one of the big selling factors that seem to be massively emphasized by these companies is how cheap they are, or at least how cheap the initial purchase price is. Compared to buying an electric shaver, these razors prove much more inexpensive in the very short term. But they do come with added costs, which we will discuss in a moment. And aside from the closeness of the shave, I think that the real marketing sort of point and the marketing strategy around loads of these types of razors is that it gives you that sense of tradition, the elegance, the coolness of still using a bladed razor. It's even getting to the stage now where it's a bit like a cutthroat razor. That real idea of replicating what your dad used to do in the 1960s and 70s. Lathering up in front of the sink, ultra masculine. And it gives you that feeling of confidence potentially. But I think it's only fair that we take a look at some of the cons that you get with disposable razors. Now for me, my biggest problem with using razors really in any form is that it irritates my skin. And you're probably thinking, oh well, you're not using the right cream or gel or anything like that. The problem for me is I have pretty sensitive skin. And I've tried several different types of gels and creams, and although they've helped make the shave really easy, they haven't really stopped the sensitivity. And I often end up getting rashes no matter what I use. Even when shaving with the grain, varying the speed of my strokes, it doesn't seem to make a great deal of difference. I can use an electric shaver dry and the irritation is nowhere near the same. You will have seen it on some of my videos before. I've got a patch of the doctor thinks is some sort of eczema or dermatitis that's almost permanently on my neck. And using one of these only makes it worse. And although I often like to use one of these to give my neck an ultra soft feeling, it doesn't really help my skin. And obviously if you are clumsy, then you've got the chance of cutting yourself, whereas it's pretty much impossible to cut yourself with an electric shaver. And for me, this is particularly difficult on the top lip. Even so, it's only a minor issue really, and I've found that with certain types of disposable razors, like the one that I received a while ago from Boldking, which has got like a flexible head on it, this isn't a great issue. And I've obviously got to point out the long-term costage of disposable razors. Because yes, of course they're cheap, like they're advertised, so cheap to get these, but unlike an electric shaver, it's not a one-time purchase. Every so many shaves you're going to have to be changing the head. And no matter how cheap you're getting them in store or having them ordered directly to your house every month, it's still going to cost more in the long run with the lubricants for your face added than an electric shaver does. Speaking of the electric shaver, let's move on to the pros and cons of this one. Now I'm going to speak again here about electric shavers as a whole, not this specific model or brand. But if you do want this specific model or that specific razor, I will leave links to all of these in the description below. The first benefit of using an electric shaver is one of the most important ones for me, and that is that it's just miles faster than using a standard razor. You don't have to worry about lathering up, you don't have to worry about applying different creams to your face both before and after the shave. You can use most electric shavers these days in the shower if you want to and just blitz it while you're in the shower, or completely dry in front of a mirror, it still works. For me, on a day-to-day basis, when it comes to preparing to get ready to go to work, it's a no-brainer between these two. I'm not wasting an extra 15 to 20 minutes of lie-in time using one of these attempting to get the perfect shave. You can get shaved and done in a minute with this. The types of heads that both the linear and the circular types of shavers have got these days make it almost impossible to slice yourself. They are also multi-purpose. A lot of them, including this model here, have got a simple trimmer on as well, which if you want to neaten up your facial hair, you can do easily. Although for something like stubble, I'd probably recommend a separate stubble trimmer which does a better job. I like to use this attachment to actually go over the ear area because my hair seems to go straight down onto my ears and it makes me look sloppy. With a disposable razor, you just can't do that. You're either to the skin or nothing at all. Also, so long as you're buying yourself a decent one, then they're not going to break as quickly as the disposable ones. Now, obviously, you would expect that from an item that you're paying significantly more for. And this is sort of a pro and a con for electric shavers, because they are significantly more expensive to initially purchase than any set of razors, which may be a step too far if you are incredibly tight on cash. But the real advantage of these comes in the very long run. As I sort of touched on earlier, something like this will prove cheaper. Let's say you've spent £60 on an electric shaver. When you compare that to spending, let's say, £10 a month on disposable razors, in 6 months' time, this will have already paid for itself. Whereas with these, you keep on having to purchase them. That one is really a balancing act depending on how much you can afford. So the cons of the electric shaver. Number one, you don't get the same closeness on the shave. Due to the way that they're constructed, the blades aren't going directly onto your skin, you're never going to get quite the same closeness as with one of these. As a result, they're also not particularly good if you've got a hair that is lying flat to your face. It's definitely more tricky to get under it and to get it cut. They also vary in terms of performance depending on which model and brand you get. This is why I'd obviously encourage you to watch as many reviews as possible. I've been a Braun user for years because the products are built absolutely solid. I've never really had any problems with them, and it gives me a close enough shave. But there are definitely some other brands out there that are a bit sketchy. If the price on something seems too good to be true, then often with electric shavers it probably is. Also, you don't get the shave ritual. You're not going to look like your dad used to do in front of the mirror with all your shaving foam on. You just don't get that with these. Maybe it's not quite as masculine potentially. That's the summary really of electric shavers versus disposable razors. There are other instruments out there that can cut the hairs on your face, but I'm not going to be talking about them in this video. I'm not really going to tell you which one of these is objectively the best, but I will end this by mentioning what I actually use each of these for. For day-to-day use, I use an electric shaver. For me, these still get close enough to the skin. And the killer for me really is the fact that using disposable razors takes so long. If I was a rich person and I had no work to go into each day, then sure, I'd use one of these. But for me, I can get, 95% of the same result using one of these, and it takes 3 times less. Often I get horrible stubbly hairs on my neck that this sort of can't get, so I will still use the disposable razor in order to chop these off. And occasionally I will still get the urge to use one of these for my full face, but I don't know, it's not very often. Even with the emergence of dozens and dozens of companies selling disposable razors, trying to sell them straight to your door, there's still a reason why electric shavers are still around. And that's because, in my opinion, they're probably the best option for day-to-day use for men. But either way, I've been quite impressed with the disposable razor from Boldking, so as well as the Braun shaver, I'll leave a link to this one as well down below. And if they're too expensive for you, I'll try and find, cheaper alternatives to both of these as well. I want to know in today's video vote, which of these two do you use on a daily basis? Press the I in the corner of the screen, choose your option from the drop down menu. If you enjoyed this video, hopefully you found it informative, not too biased, make sure you press the like button. And if you want to see more similar videos just like this one, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and press the bell next to it as well, so that YouTube will tell you every time I upload a video. And I'll see you on the next one.